In Hebrew calendar, the day starts in the evening, and today we have the Memorial Day. It's Yom HaShoah Day, and we were thinking with Karen what would be proper thing also for Israeli audience, for Israelis living here, to commemorate the victims of Shoah. That would also help you to learn about the place you are living. It would be also for Czechs that are sometimes walking on the streets and seeing the Stolpersteine and might not know what that means. And also for Czechs that know what that means. And there is this special story of Trevor that I came across on Facebook. I understood he published a book, and last year JCC adopted few Stolpersteine, and the idea was that we will clean them. This was a program organized by Lauder School for kids to learn about the history of Prague and the stories of Jews that disappeared. So I asked him if he could give us a lecture and tell us a little bit more what brought him to Prague and why he started cleaning it and how is it to clean the stones and also not only clean them but also search for the stories. I recommend to look in the book. I saw it. It's very impressive. I also hope that he will give us some secrets how to clean them because we want to go clean the stones in the area. It's not so easy. I know it from the last year. So these are all my expectations for this evening, but there might be more. I give you the floor. I thank you for coming. I thank you for watching, and floor is yours.
Thank you. Dobry večer, good evening, and thank you for coming. And hello to everyone online. Thank you for joining us. I'm here today to talk to you about Prague Stolpersteine and how I became involved with them. The Stolpersteine project was conceived by German artist Gunter Demnig. Gunter placed the first Stolperstein in front of the Cologne City Hall on the 16th of December 1992. The installation marked the 50th anniversary of the so-called Auschwitz Decree, signed by Heinrich Himmler in 1942. The decree ordered the deportation of Roma and Sinti to the Auschwitz extermination camp. Although the stone was placed without permission, this was later sought and granted retrospectively. The Stolperstein is embossed with the first lines of the decree. The remainder of the text is actually contained within a cavity within the installation. I note that it's reported that the stone was stolen in 2010. However, I think this is more than likely it was mislaid after reconstruction. A replacement was fitted in 2013. The first Stolperstein, in the form we see them today, was laid in Kreuzberg, Berlin in 1996. At this time, Gunter laid 51 stones, again without permission from the German authorities. The inscription format is the same for every stone. Here lived, it can also be here taught or here worked. Name, and in the case of women, it can be their maiden name also. Year of birth, year and date of deportation and destinations, and fate. Usually this is murder, irrespective of the cause of death, even if this is through starvation or disease. Nevertheless, they were murdered by the Nazi regime. In the case of suicide, Gunter may use flight unto death. Survived or liberated is also used where appropriate. A Stolperstein can be dedicated to anyone who was persecuted by the Nazi regime between 1933 and 1945. And this isn't only Jews, but also Roma and Sinti, homosexuals, dissidents, Jehovah's Witnesses, the disabled, and resistance fighters. It also includes survivors. Prague has 466 Stolpersteine, of which 95% are dedicated to Jews. 3% are dedicated to survivors. Today, there are more than 90,000 Stolpersteine in over 2,000 villages, towns and cities across 27 countries. They are embossed in 20 languages, plus 2 special versions. There is a Stolpersteine embossed in Braille. It is dedicated to the memory of blind and deaf writer Irina Ransberg, located in Graz, Austria. There is also a unique Stolpersteine in Arnhem, Netherlands, that has no inscription at all. The stone commemorates the unborn child of Isidor Leeuwendaal and Maria van Alst. Pregnant Maria was forced to have an abortion in Auschwitz, after which various medical experiments were carried out upon her in the experimental barracks. However, Maria did survive the war. Isidor was murdered in Auschwitz. Between 1992 and 2005, Gunther made every Stolperstein himself by hand. In 2005, sculptor Michael Friedrichs Friedländer took over the process so Gunther could devote more time to the installations. From the summer of 2021, stones for the Benelux countries are being made by Stichtchen Stolpersteine in a workshop located in the garden of the Goethe Institute in Amsterdam. Here's a short video of the process.
Man muss diesem Schicksal wirklich ins Auge schauen, man muss es also von Hand machen. Jeder Stein hat dadurch auch was ganz Individuelles, was Persönliches. Also mein Name ist Michael Friedrichs Friedländer, Bildhauer, und die eigene Bildhauerei habe ich an den Nagel gehängt und stelle die Stolpersteine her. Die Schicksale, die man, gerade wenn man sie von Hand einstempelt, einschlägt, Buchstabe für Buchstabe, Zahl für Zahl, das schlägt man sich auch in den Kopf ein. Und wenn es dann eben Familien sind mit über 10 Leuten, wenn es Kinder sind, aber auch Kreise mit fast 100, rücksichtslos umgebracht. Aus keinem Grund. Und sowas darf nicht sein. Also man muss wissen, was ist passiert, um zu wissen, warum passiert was heute. Das hat ja immer einen Ursprung. Und wer interessiert ist an dem, was heute passiert, der muss sich auch dafür interessieren, was ist mal gewesen. Man versucht zu verstehen, wie ist es überhaupt dazu gekommen, dass dieses Dritte Reich entstehen konnte. Eine Antwort kenne ich nicht. Flächenmäßig ist es wahrscheinlich das größte Projekt, das sich mit dem Holocaust beschäftigt, weltweit. Es reicht von Norwegen bis Italien, es reicht von Belgien bis in die Ukraine, Russland. Das setzt ein Zeichen, auch heute noch ein Zeichen, um darauf aufmerksam zu machen, was passiert ist. Man kann sich heute schwer vorstellen, dass sowas wieder passiert. Man kann es hoffen, dass es nicht wieder passiert. Die Möglichkeit ist immer da.
I would just like to pause for a moment on Mikhail's last sentence. One can hardly imagine that it would happen again today. One can hope that it doesn't repeat, but the possibility always exists. As we mark Yom HaShoah and we read in the press, we can see that history can repeat itself. Before the pandemic, Gunther would spend 300 days a year travelling across Europe installing the Stolpersteine. Today, at 74 years old, Gunther still tries to install as many stones as he can. A Stolperstein is placed in the sidewalk at the person's last chosen place of residence. Where many people are to be commemorated in one place, a Stolpenschwelle, stumbling threshold, may be used. This one, placed at an elementary school in Olmolotz, is where 3,500 Jews were assembled before deportation. Stolpersteine were introduced to the Czech Republic by the Czech Union of Jewish Youth. The first Stolpersteine, dedicated to Max Eckstein, was installed in Prague on the 8th of October 2008. Since 2018, the installations have been coordinated by Stolpersteine v Praze, and I'm grateful to Hermina Neuner and František Banier for the work they do in this regard. Today, there are 466 Stolpersteine in 220 locations throughout Prague. A further 100 are expected to be installed in both 2022 and 2023. There is a photograph of the person for 395 of Prague's 466 Stolpersteine. Most of the photos have been taken from records of the Czech National Archive that have been digitized by the Institute Terezín initiative. Others have been provided by relatives. I first became aware of the Stolpersteine project on a tour of Prague's Jewish quarter. I was told they are known in Czech as kameny zmizelých, or stones of the disappeared. This phrase struck me as I could see the names on the stones were disappearing from view as the stones became dirty and tarnished. I wanted to clean the stones, but I felt as a foreigner it wasn't my place to do so. Then in June 2018, I saw an article on Facebook about a gentleman from Salzburg named Gerhard Geyer. Like myself, Gerhard isn't Jewish, nor was his family affected by the Holocaust. Yet he took it upon himself to clean all 388 Stolpersteine in his city. I was inspired by Gerhard's story and decided I would do the same here in Prague. I searched online and walked the streets of Prague, plotting all the Stolpersteine locations I could find on a map. On the 7th of July 2018, I cleaned my first Stolpersteine. As I clean each Stolpersteine, I wanted to know more about the person the stone commemorates. Using many resources, including the Holocaust Victims Database on holocaust.cz, the Transport to Extinction Database on yadvashem.org, I researched the individuals. As I found out more information about the person, I would add the links and photographs to the map. A few days after cleaning the stones, a lady named Jitka stopped to ask me what I was doing. After I explained my project to Jitka, she took this photograph and asked if she could post about my project on Facebook. Jitka's post soon received more than 1,000 reactions and 800 shares. The British Embassy also tweeted about my project. This tweet was retweeted about 141 times and liked nearly 1,000 times. Then it was the turn of mainstream media. This is an article that was on Czech News.
Jiný Brit, Trevor Sage, od začátku července po celé Praze čistí a leští kameny zmizelých, takzvané Stolpersteiny, které na ulicích upomínají na oběti holokaustu, konkrétní lidi, kteří právě tam kdysi žili. Navíc Trevor Sage vytvořil i interaktivní mapu, která ukazuje umístění jednotlivých kamenů i s fotografiemi a příběhem lidí, které připomínají.
Na Stolpersteine neboli tzv. Kameny zmizelých můžete narazit po celé Evropě. V Praze jich je více než 260 a právě o ně se začal starat Brit Trevor Sage, který už 12 let žije v Praze.
Na začátku července jsem slyšel o muži v Salzburgu, který vyčistil všechny kameny ve městě. To mě inspirovalo k tomu, že bych mohl vyčistit ty v Praze.
Do ulic vyráží až 4krát do týdne. Pro svou činnost nadchnul i mladší generaci.
Mně to jednou řekla máma, že byl v Javánce právě takovej muž, který právě čistí ty dlaždičky a já jsem to chtěl zkusit taky.
Čištěním jednoho kamene zmizelých stráví Trevor Sage i 20 minut.
Když vypadají dobře, používám jen krém a hadr. Když jsou takhle špinavé, musíte použít žínku a čistič mosazy.
Jeho iniciativu oceňují i pozůstalí obětí.
Je to nesmírně obdivuhodný čin, který teda, myslím, je takový následování hodný.
Problém není jenom s nečistotou kamenu, ale také při rekonstrukci chodníků. Třeba tady ve Slezské ulici je dělníci už jednou nevrátili zpět a při dalších opravách je poškodili. Kameny se v České republice pokládají od roku 2008. Jsou inspirované původním projektem německého umělce Kuntra Demnicha.
Prvý vlastně ten kameň byl položený v Hamburgu a v České republice byl položený v oktobri v roku 2008. Jedná se především o oběti Holocaust, ale nielen Holocaust a prenasledovania nacistického režimu.
Pražské kameny zmizelých Trevor Sage vyznačil na mapu. U každého z nich jsou fotky, které ukazují oběti a jejich příběh, ale také stav kamene před vyčištěním a po něm. Tereza Brhelová, Česká televize.
The BBC also became interested in my project and interviewed me on Radio 5 Live. So many people became interested in my project, I created the Facebook page Stolpersteine Prague. This enabled people to follow my progress online. Today, the page has more than 3,000 followers. When I clean the Stolpersteine, I like to have a photograph of the person in front of me. This helps me make a connection to them. This is a video of me cleaning the stones that has been created by media students. Here are some of the samples of the stones when I found them and when I cleaned them. Many of the stones are placed up against the walls, which encourages the dirt to make the stones much more dirty. Normally they'd be placed further in the sidewalk where people actually walk upon them. And this in action actually helps keep them clean. Sorry?
Can I comment on that? Can I comment on the reason why? Sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
Maybe later. Actually, the reason for it was because I was involved in the first Stolpersteine. So Sorry, the reason was that the city of Prague did not allow the Stolpersteine to be on the path because it could be a danger to walk on them. So that's why they had to be so close to the house. And we were always very sad that they are so close to that because nobody sees them. And actually, I agree with the fact that by walking on them, one can clean them. And it also loses the purpose if it's too close to the house, but it's something that the city administration wanted like that. So just an explanation. I didn't know if you know that.
I didn't know that was the main cause, but since I've had this instance, I've made people aware of it, and now all the stones previous since 2018 I got involved are now being placed further in the sidewalk.
Yeah, I think it's changed.
Yeah. Some of them can be very difficult to clean. I was actually asked one occasion, what is my nemesis when it comes to cleaning? And chewing gum. Chewing gum that's gone old is very difficult to remove. However, my view on that has changed and I have a new nemesis. Tar. This one is where they tarmac the sidewalk around the stones. This took me considerable time to clean because I didn't want to damage them. But ultimately, I think I made a fairly good job of it. In 2019, I appealed for help in cleaning all the Prague Stolpersteine in time for Yom HaShoah. I received offers of help from more than 100 people, including 35 children from Lauder School. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we are unable to repeat this exercise in 2020. In 2021, teachers from Lauder schools launched an Adopt a Stolperstein initiative. Volunteers were asked to adopt a Stolperstein location, clean the stones in time for Yom HaShoah, and care for them for the coming year. Within 10 days, all 200 Stolpersteiner locations throughout Prague had been adopted by a school class, family, or individual. This initiative has been renewed for 2022. Thank you to everyone who has adopted a Stolperstein. During my research of the stones, I gathered information from many different sources about the people that are commemorated. I felt that all the information I'd collated needed to be brought together into a single publication. So in May 2019, I set about compiling a book. 18 months later, the result was Prague Stolpersteine, Stumbling Stones, Defiant in Their Memory. In order to finance the publication of the book, I set about a crowdfunding campaign on the HitHit crowdfunding site. The campaign was incredibly successful, and thanks to the enormous generosity of so many people, I achieved 154% of my target. Exceeding this target enabled me to produce twice as many books. To date, more than 100 books have been donated to schools, libraries, and institutions. Royalties from the sale of the book are being donated to the Publicly Beneficial Association supporting persons affected by the Holocaust for the benefit of Stolpersteiner v Praze, who coordinate the installation, replacement of missing Stolperstein, and to date, it's raised 45,000 crowns. This is just me looking at the artwork at the printers. The book was launched at the British Embassy in Prague on the 24th of November 2021. I'm very grateful to Prague 2 district who supported me with a cultural grant to have the book printed. I'm also grateful to the British Embassy for hosting the book launch. I'm actually also grateful to Nick Archer, the British ambassador, who saw an early version of the book and made some very valuable contributions towards it. The book contains photographs of Prague's 466 Stolperstein, from the first installed in 2008 through to 2021. Here we see the entry for Peter Gintz, and I was very pleased that Peter Gintz's sister actually authorised the text and the use of family photographs within the book. Portrait pictures of the victims are also included, taken from the Holocaust records of the Czech National Archive and also provided by relatives. Also, information about the person's deportation from the victims database on holocaust.cz. Also, Holocaust transport details have been taken from yadvashem.org. There are also touching stories about the victims' lives. Many of them have been told to me by relatives. The Nazis stripped people of their names and dignity. The Stolpersteine project and the book Prague Stolpersteine ensures these innocent victims will never be forgotten, returning their names to be among us once more. Together, we will remember them. Thank you for your attention, and do you have any questions?
It is very impressive indeed. I wanted to ask why it was decided to put it on the floor and maybe not on the wall. This is number one. And number two is the municipalities supporting this project?
Here, there's absolutely no issues at all with the authorities, and it's just I'm not aware, then perhaps I should make, I'm not aware of any issues with the authorities in Prague.
I saw some of the stones also in Berlin and in the Slovakia, I believe, in Bratislava. Are there like all over the Europe? You know, I mean, you said that there was the other guy. But...
Yes, there are 90,000 in 27 countries. I'm not sure about in Germany, most definitely. In Berlin, I believe there are over 6,000. There's one exception in Germany, which is Munich, which there are objections from the Jewish community about having stones in the sidewalk because it's deemed to be disrespectful. But that view is not shared by many authorities.
Maybe your first question, maybe I can reply to one of the questions why they are on the ground. Mr. Demnick's interpretation was that if you, because it's on the ground, the name, and if you want to read it, you need to like look at it, and you really need to show respect to the person. So that was one of the reasons why it's actually on the ground. That if you want to read the name, you need to show respect to the person who was persecuted or was one of the victims. And regarding regarding the local authorities, in the beginnings there were many, and maybe that also explains because Stolperstein in German is also a metaphor. Because Stolperstein also means that something is in the way. If you want to achieve something, you can have stones in the way that make it more difficult. And regarding the story, there were quite many Stolpersteine on the way to install the first Stolpersteine in the Czech Republic, because the authorities didn't know about it or didn't know what it was. And some of them didn't want to support it at first. And now some politicians like to take pictures and and be seen with the Stolpersteine. But I think maybe now, as they know it's a world or European-wide project, they're supporting it more. So maybe that's just a more critical point of view to it as well. But
I would just clarify that Bianca was actually part of the original organization that brought Stolpersteine to Prague in 2008. So has a great deal more experience with them in the early days. I didn't get involved until 10 years later. Yes, indeed.
First, thank you again for sharing your story. Very interesting. I'm living here for quite a few years. I never wasn't aware of that. Now I will be very much watching when I'm walking on the pedestrians. Now, there were a lot of very positive responses we got, but did you also were facing any negative responses part of your work?
I'm very happy to say never. Absolutely. In all the years I've been doing, or since 2018, 4 years, I've never had a negative response. Yeah, and no damage to any of the stones I've ever come across. Whereas in Germany, often such stones are defaced, but I've never experienced it in Prague, ever. Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you. It was very interesting. I guess we share it all. I would just invite everyone to look more under, like when you are walking on the streets. If anyone wants to join us tomorrow for cleaning, you are more than welcome. We can give you more details. And thanks again, like for doing it. I mean, seeing like before and after. It's just quite a work, and with the day of the Memorial Day of today, it's just like very meaningful. So thank you.
They do get dirty very, very quickly. I know. It's a never-ending task.
So that's like encouraging for us to like adopt the stones and take care of them.
Thank you.